Coming back here in Sports Talk Chicago with Joey Christopoulos. Follow me at Joey Sports Guy. Like, comment, and question below if you're watching us on YouTube. And thank you so much for checking us out on all of our wonderful affiliates throughout the great state of Illinois. Here with former NFL linebacker Tre Watson. Tre, I want to hop on over. Let's talk Green Bay Packers first. Your brother Christian's on the team. Man, did he try so hard to put himself out there for his teammates last year, battling injuries, wanted to be out there for the playoffs. I spoke to, and I've been on a couple of different Packers podcasts in the offseason. I'm hearing a lot from Packers fans that last year felt a little bit like house money. Like they didn't know what they were going to get from Jordan Love. And there were at times, I think he had 10 interceptions in 7 games. There were some bumpy parts in the first half of the year. But they didn't really know what they were going to get from this Green Bay Packers team last year. Well, they got a playoff win out of it. So I kind of want to break down, give me a scale of maybe 1 to 10. What is your enthusiasm right now for Jordan Love and this Packers team heading into next year? And what is the expectation for this Packers team in the NFC North heading into the season?
I'd say all things considered right now, the expectation is at an all-time high for Green Bay. I think you were right on point with last year, as it definitely started off rough. After they beat the Bears week 1, it just seemed like every other game couldn't really figure things out. Obviously, Christian was injured for a significant amount of time. Romeo dealt with some things, and then the rest of the receivers were so young. The defense that everyone kind of expected we'd be able to lean on at one point was part of the problem, a large part of the problem. And Jordan's play was just inconsistent. 1 week things looked great, the next week not so much. So when things finally did turn that corner and it seemed like Jordan and everyone else hit their stride, you just felt different about the team. It felt like a new team. And then, to be frankly honest, the team was 2 drop pick sixes, balls hitting guys directly in their face, away from going to an NFC Championship against the Lions, who they had beaten handily at the Lions' place on Thanksgiving not too long before that. So, you come into this season right now, and I mean, things have only improved since then, right? Like, you add Josh Jacobs, you add Xavier McKinney, they add some really talented young guys with, Edger and Cooper, Javon Bullard, Kalen King, even as a slot corner in the 7th round, who was a projected first-round pick a couple of years ago as a young player at Penn State. Everything just seems to be, looking up to a season with real expectations this time around, with the same young core of talent that everyone just remembers destroying Dallas in Dallas and being right where they needed to be against San Francisco in most of those guys' second ever playoff game. So like where things feel right now, it's like, dude, everyone wants to see Jordan get the contract that we know is coming. I mean, we just saw Trevor Lawrence get $55 million a year. I don't see how a guy in Jordan Love takes anything less than that. I mean, that's the going rate, right? Like that's how economics work in this sport. So, everyone wants to see that happen, get that taken care of. And then just like the last, almost 30 years, the Packers have their guy, and he's locked in for a very long time with a lot of promising talent around him. And we just want to see where it goes, right? Like when you have everything on the table like this, and you feel like you have an idea now of what you have across the board, whether it's skill position on offense, defensive backs, young linebacker core, a lot of veterans on the defensive line, and a young, promising offensive line with guys who really played above expectations last year. You have the pieces for, hey, we're a Super Bowl contender until further notice. And I think that's where things lie.
Well, that's the scary thing, is that, I've told you this on and off a pod. I'm a big Christian Watson fan. And I think the scary thing for Bears fans and NFC North fans is that they played most of the season without him available. Yeah. And even when he did get out there on the field to tough it out with his teammates, I don't know if he was 100% at all times, or maybe running at the top speeds that that he's probably capable of. And that's what's scary, man. Go around the NFL. If you take the best receiver off of any team, you're going to see a drop-off in production. And the way that Green Bay and Jordan Love was able to put up points in the second half of that season and really, run it up on Dallas like that, if you get a full season of Christian, That's a scary proposition for the NFC North and the NFC in general.
No, without a doubt. And like what's really special about it is, obviously we see what the Bears have assembled now at receiver with just a top three of Keenan, DJ, and Rome Odunze. And regardless of Rome having played a snap or not, we know how gifted he is as a receiver. And receiver is naturally a position where guys are able to acclimate themselves into the NFL faster than a lot of other positions, like what we saw last year with Jaden Reed as a rookie, Dontavian Wicks as a sixth round, I think, rookie. Even Malik Heath as an undrafted free agent. Bo Melton was a practice squad guy brought over from Seattle, had a 100-yard game in a must-win game in Minnesota. So, you see what Chicago has, right? And that's a really nice top three. And I'm off the top of my head, I don't really know who their next 4 or 5 would be. But like you look over at Green Bay and you say, okay, our 1 through 5, those guys would compete for starter reps on any team in the league. It really doesn't matter. And they're at the most third-year players. That is a great situation to have, right? And you couple that with Luke Musgrave, who flashed a ton last year and also was hurt at times. I think he lacerated a kidney or something. Then you have, Tucker Kraft, who is like the old school true tight end who really showed some things, especially late in the season when Luke was hurt and he got more targets. If you have those guys healthy all year, Christian healthy all year and getting, a 17 games worth of real receiver targets, it's just like, man, you should have easy pickings wherever you want. One day Christian goes off for 100. The next day it's Jaden Reed. The next day Romeo Doubs has 12 catches and so on and so forth, right? It's like no team can cover everybody. No team can scheme up for 7 different weapons. And that's before we talk about Josh Jacobs, who led the league in rushing 2 years ago, right? So it's like you got a plethora of options here, and you pair that with a quarterback who you have the utmost faith in now, and that's just exciting, right? Like you just want to see that. We want to get to the point where we get to see that week in and week out. And the biggest thing is, keeping Christian and keeping all those guys healthy so that we and everyone else gets to see the Packers do whatever it is they're really capable of doing.
No, look, man, that's a really great point because I've seen so many Bears teams of years past where, Allen Robinson has to miss a week or two, and it just changes the complexion of how a defense can key on other guys that aren't used to maybe that much attention. And when you have the big guy there, helping other guys get targets in some space, that's why I think drafting Rome Odunze for the Chicago Bears was so smart, because I love Keenan Allen, but if Keenan Allen does have an issue where he does have to miss a game or two, it's okay because Rome can slide in there. If Rome misses some time, we still have the veterans there. You know what I mean? You still have DJ Moore there. So as you talk about, I agree. I think the Packers' depth at wide receiver is definitely probably the best, I think, in the NFC North. And gosh, maybe the best in the NFC. When you talk about that 3, 4, 5 spot, we could talk about some of the top heavy teams. But when you're talking about the Packers, those 3, 4, 5s are just as good as some of the 2, 3s across the NFC. So that's going to be really interesting. I want to ask you. So yeah, real quick, you mentioned Josh Jacobs. I just want to ask you. I have a ton of respect for Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones would give me nightmares, man. Like 2nd and 8 or 3rd and 6. Ooh, maybe if we just get off the field and we get the ball back, maybe we can score. And Aaron Jones just runs over a couple of guys, trucks them for a first down. Josh Jacobs kind of felt like a plan B a little bit. Are you excited? Obviously, he's younger. I get it. But different style of running back, I feel like. Are you excited about that different dynamic in the backfield as opposed to an Aaron Jones from years past?
For sure. I think, I would have loved to see them even still bring Aaron back. Like the deal that Minnesota gave Aaron.
Nothing.
I would have thought Green Bay could have done that and have Josh. And like the way running backs work these days is just so crazy, right? Like it's so hard to keep guys, for an extended period of time, right? I mean, we see Derrick Henry, who's just destroyed the league the last how many years, gets moved and can't even get double digits per year, annual value. So running back is just hard, right? And it's hard to see Aaron leave because no matter what you want to talk about, his build, his top speed, his draft status, any of that, the dude just produced always. And like the last quarter of the season last year and into the playoffs, I mean, he was arguably the best running back in the league in terms of the value he was providing week in and week out, especially when Green Bay really needed it the most. So, to bring in Josh, I think it's a different dynamic. I don't think he's as dynamic in the passing game. At least he hasn't been in the past. But also, I don't think the Raiders asked him to be. He comes into a different kind of offense and a team that's used to having their running backs involved on third down. I think you also add in, they drafted a very elusive and dynamic guy in Marshawn Lloyd from USC, who can maybe do some of those things as well, spare Josh and doing those things. And then Emmanuel Wilson, I think, is a slept-on guy, not to get a bulk load of carries or anything like that, but, I mean, he was a monster in the preseason last year, and right when Aaron went down last season, he was going to get his opportunity and ended up, like, separating his shoulder or something right when it seemed like things were looking up for him to potentially, earn a bigger role in the offense. So I think between those three guys, and they still have A.J. Dillon, who can provide, some great things. It looks like he's leaned up a little bit this year. Maybe he comes back to being more of that dynamic rusher that he was a couple of years ago. I think they have a good situation at running back. I think it's hard anytime you lose a perennial Pro Bowler like Aaron. But they definitely didn't, regress in that situation overall, and I think that's a positive thing.
A couple more for you. We're going to get you out of here. Former NFL linebacker and host of Hitman's Haven, Tre Watson, joining us here on Sports Talk Chicago. So let's just do it. I mean, look, man, it's about to be the 4th of July. We got a lot of time to go. We got camp, it's still 3 weeks away. Dudes are on vacation right now. Caleb Williams is in Paris. But if you had it right now, give me your NFC North power rankings, 1 through 4. What's the order as it stands right now?
Yeah, I'd say right now today, at the top, it's a 1A, 1B situation with Green Bay and Detroit. I think, realistically, Detroit fans are going to say Detroit. Green Bay fans are going to say Green Bay. And I think it's just based on preference. Obviously, we know Detroit made it to the NFC Championship last year. But like I said, there's a very simple route where Green Bay is in that exact spot if dudes just didn't have Butterfingers. I think going into this season, I think Detroit still has a very loaded roster. I think, Amon-Ra St. Brown is one of the best in the league. Aiden Hutchinson is a really good pass rusher, and I think that they just have a good team overall. I think Jared Goff is a good but not great quarterback, but he has done well enough there to get the job done. So I'm not going to slight him for that. But I think it's 1A, 1B. It's however you want to look at it. And I think falling into the third slot right now would be Chicago. I think simply because the pieces Dave added far outweigh the pieces Minnesota has lost, and mainly being Kirk Cousins. Minnesota, obviously they have Justin Jefferson, who is as good of an individual player as you'll find in the NFL. But, man, we know what happens with quarterback. Not knowing who your quarterback is going to be, reality of the matter is Justin can't throw the ball to himself. Addison can't throw the ball to himself. And no offense to JJ, obviously they picked him very high, and no offense to Sam Darnold, but we've seen what Sam has done, and it hasn't been satisfactory football at any point in time thus far. And we don't know where JJ will be to start the season. So I think they slot in at 4, and Chicago is in there at 3. And it's up to either Chicago or Minnesota to earn the right to pass up Green Bay and Detroit right now. I think, Detroit won the division, and they did what they needed to do last year, and Green Bay showed as the season went on last year that they're a force to be reckoned with. So it's about the other two playing catch-up right now for me.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. And look, man, after working some Big Ten stuff with you for 4 or 5 months, if you had picked JJ over Caleb, I was going to scream at you. So
That's funny.
We know what we know. We know week in and week out. Look, I think I get it. JJ can make all the throws, but you know what I mean? The volume isn't quite there, and I think he's probably maybe a year or two away where maybe Caleb can maybe have a little bit more of impact than JJ McCarthy year 1 for his respective team. Let's get you out of here in this. It's just a fun one, man. Like, there's 2 trends I've kind of noticed right now. There seems to be kind of like the tall, the old wives' tale of like after you win a Super Bowl, it seems like some people go off and get arrested. Maybe they're just partying a little bit too hard. But the one that I want to specifically ask you is we're in that time right now where minicamp is over. training camp is about to begin, and once training camp begins, your sole focus is to your family and to your team. So while you have those 3.5 weeks, what does a guy, Tre Watson, what do you do? What do you do with your time, man? Are you a guy that likes to travel? Are you a guy that likes to stay home? What's your ideal vacation for this little time off here?
Yeah, I think you have to find a balance during this time because, you do need to get away right from that, that camp, that facility environment, just because when you come back for training camp, you're going to be there from the end of July all the way through hopefully February, right? If all things work out and you make it to the Super Bowl. So you've got a long time and, hundreds of hours that you'll be spending at one place moving forward. So you got to get away and you got to find a balance between keeping your body in shape, right? Because if you were at OTAs and minicamp, you're in shape. Those practices are, exactly.
How hard do you train? Yeah, I guess that's the other one too, is how do you balance the idea? Because in my mind, you're like, all right, well, once training camp starts, I'm going to start callousing my body. That's 100% going to get me in shape, but I want to show up to training camp ready to roll. So how do you find that fine line when you train to not overdo it before you get to training camp, but be ready to go,
Yeah. So, you might keep your volume high because, you have to keep yourself in. You want to be peaking right now. So it's about maximizing your volume, but maybe, taking a little bit step back on the intensity, right? Like maybe not squatting and deadlifting as much weight as I was February, March, April, May, not putting, hey man, how much weight can I get on my back? How much can I bench press right now? Doing all that stuff. So it's balancing that out and also timing up. Hey, if I'm going to take a vacation, when do I do it, right? Like, I remember when I was with Miami, we went on a cruise, my wife and I think we went 2.5 weeks before training camp. So, we had a week or two where I was, done with mini camp, relaxing, still training, though, doing all those things. Took that vacation, but you got to give yourself enough time, right? Especially if you want to enjoy your vacation. On the back end of that to say, all right, I fully lock back in. I get at least another full solid week of really good training. I feel right now I'm in the best place. I'm comfortable. I have my legs under me because as soon as camp starts, you're going to get worn out no matter how in shape you are. But you still want to start at 100%, right? I don't want to go in, my hamstring's aching, my hip, my shoulder. So you want to do your best to get rid of all the ailments and the aches and the discomfort, but still keep yourself in peak form to be ready to go, right? Because that's how you earn an opportunity come training camp.
Tre Watson, man, always love your insights, love your perspectives, man. Love to see you go to war with Packers Twitter during the season. So enjoy your vacation now because that's going to start up for you right around the corner. Before you go, man, plug your socials, plug Hitman's Haven, what you're doing with your dad. Great podcast to check out, behind the scenes athlete's perspective. And thank you so much for joining Sports Talk Chicago.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate it. Always a good time. So, you can find me on Twitter at MDQUE_33, and I'm on Instagram at Tre_Watson33. But yeah, Hitman's Haven, that's my dad and I show. Obviously, we're Packers family members. So it's a Packers-based show, but we talk football, we talk life, we talk sports, we interconnect it all. And the biggest thing is, right, he played in the NFL in the 90s. I played in the NFL not too long ago and I'm just now finishing up playing professional football. So we just provide good perspective, right? Twitter and Instagram, there's only so many characters I can get in. And half the time you actually, put in a well-thought message on Twitter. Most people say, I'm not reading all that, or I'm clowning you for typing out a well-thought response to stuff. So we said, all right, hey, we'll put it in this form where I can say what I'm trying to tell you. You can listen to it, take 30, 45 seconds to listen to this clip, and now you understand what we're talking about. So, lately we've been breaking down our top 5 rankings for each position right now, currently in the NFL, where things stand following the past season. Just finished up most recently, we did safeties and cornerbacks. So definitely can check those out, right? We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube and all those things like that. So just enjoying talking football and talking sports just like we did here today. And, coming from guys who love the game, enjoy watching it, enjoy playing it, and enjoy talking about it just as much.